Welcome to Happily Ever After, the podcast where we dive into life's big stories. Everything from breakups and breakdowns to buried secrets and triumphant happy endings. It's the stuff that makes us human. I'm your host, Hannah Harvey, author of How to Divorce Sober. I'm a mentor, award-winning blogger, yoga instructor, and in a past life, a fully qualified civil engineer. You can find me at hannahharvey.uk or on Instagram at hannahharveyuk. I absolutely love to hear from you, so please get in touch with your stories, thoughts, or questions. But for now, get cozy, settle in, and let's dive into your next chapter of Happily Ever After. Hello, and welcome to Happily Ever After. It's me, Hannah, and today I'd like to talk about co-parenting because it's been on my mind quite a lot of late. I think first of all, it was my youngest's birthday on Friday, so she turned 6. And so this was our 4th birthday for her as separated parents, so as co-parents. And this Friday was the first one where I didn't wake up with her. And so I think it's always those little moments when you're like, little big moments, they're big occasions for our kids and we're not there. And it kind of brings it all home again, I guess. And certainly celebrations like birthdays, when she was born, it was obviously a really happy time. And it was almost like we had been rekindling together, and her coming into the world felt like a really positive, beautiful thing for both of us. And just the amount our lives have completely transformed since then, it really comes home to you on these big occasions, doesn't it? It's like, it's really fresh in the memory, and it is only 6 years. That's not a long time, really. I just had four birthdays with us being separated, so you'd think you'd start to get used to it, but and you do, and I can promise you that things do get easier as a co-parent, but it doesn't mean that it's still moments like that you go, oh, I wish things had been different, and I wish I could be with both my kids for the entire day for their birthday. But I guess one of the big things is that as long as she's having a great day, and it's important to me that she sees both of her parents, both of them see both of their parents on their birthday, because I want them to feel that their parents have got them. So it's on my mind. And obviously going into Christmas period, it's now mid-November, I've started thinking about how are the Christmas holidays going to work, who's going to have them when. And again, Christmas this year is one of those ones where they will sleep at their dad's on Christmas Eve, so I won't wake up with them on Christmas morning, which, has its benefits. It means I will not be woken up at 5 a.m. or in the middle of the night by somebody thinking it's Christmas morning already. And I can have a nice leisurely start to the day, and then I'll pick them up at around lunchtime and we'll have a beautiful time together. But obviously, there's still those bits of it can feel like maybe you're missing out on stuff. But I guess as I just keep coming back to, as long as my kids are happy and they feel like they're surrounded by love and they're getting cool presents and they're feeling loved and spoiled, then it's okay if I'm not physically there with them. And I think it's healthy for them to not feel too attached to me that they can't enjoy life without me being there, and vice versa, that I'm not so attached to them that I can't my sole existence depends on them. I don't think that's healthy for either of us. So, yes, a lot has changed in these 6 years. And some of it is sad and some of it is really good. But overall, I thought today it was a good opportunity to think about co parenting and to kind of share what's really worked for us. And I think, especially, like I'm 4 years down the line of first leaving, you might be in the first months. This might be your first Christmas trying to navigate what it's going to be like, not having your kids around as much. And how do you manage your time when you're not with them, and how do you manage your time when you are, because it can be, because it's so all or nothing, it can be really like, well, there's no middle ground. I remember feeling like, oh my God, I miss them so much when they're not with me. And I don't know what to do with myself, and I don't know who I am if I'm not being their mum. But then when I was with them, I was absolutely run ragged trying to be all the things that you try to be, like both parents at once, and both of them wanting you at the same time. And it's just such a tricky balance that it's actually kind of hard to enjoy both. It's hard to enjoy being with them and not being with them, and then the guilt that comes with that. So I think a big lesson in all of this, if this is your first, you're coming into your first Christmas or first birthdays as co-parents, is to just be so kind to yourself. I know I bang on about it, but it's just so important to make sure that you're not beating yourself up for whatever it is you're feeling, because that's not fair. Like you're going through such a huge transition for all of you and yourself that you know your brain can't do it all. Like half of your brain is being used processing the trauma of your life completely changing, and you're no longer with the person that you promised your life to. Like, give your brain a break. You can't then produce the world's best Christmas and expect to survive. Come out the other side skipping and dancing. No, you're going to have a breakdown. So just feel what you're feeling and make sure you give yourself lots and lots of space, and don't try and do it all. Like, my big motto was like, as long as we've done one thing well in a day, that's fine. Because also your kids want downtime. They don't want you being like, well, certainly mine didn't. They don't want me ragging them around from one thing to the next, and everybody just gets exhausted and everybody falls out with each other. It's like, keep it chill. Keep it chill. One good thing a day. So I guess that really is about parenting and single parenting and how you manage that. So moving on to how do you manage the co-parenting side of things, that is when it becomes tricky, especially if you're still in the conflict stage of your divorce. If you're still working out the ins and outs of the finances, you might still be in the place where you don't want to split up with your partner, or they don't want to split up with you. So there's still an element of, is it definitely over? So trying to manage how you parent your children whilst all these other things are up in the air is exceptionally difficult. And one of the big things that gets bandied around a lot that I personally don't like, and I'm not judging anybody for saying it, but I just think we do need to be careful. And it actually came out in maths this last couple of weeks. So UK Married at First Sight, Polly calls Adam, I think his name is Adam, I can't remember the names of the couples, but if you've watched it, you know what I'm talking about. She calls him a narcissist, and he does not like it at all. And also the experts don't like it because they say he's not a narcissist. He's demonstrated plenty of times that he has empathy for other people, and people who are narcissists don't have any. And it's something that I see a lot in divorce circles, is people saying how to overcome splitting up with a narcissist. And And I think the problem is that when you're in conflict with someone and they're not doing what you want them to do, it can feel like they're not taking your emotions into account, or you don't understand their motives, or you just don't plain like what they're saying. So it's easy to be like, that person's a narcissist. And they might be. They may well be. Fair enough. However, I don't like the term because I feel like it disempowers us. So if I'm going around saying my ex is a narcissist, it means that I can then excuse my part in the whole thing. I can also feel like there's nothing I can do now. Everything's out of my control. There's nothing I can do or say because that person is a narcissist. There's nothing I can do. Which I don't believe is actually true, because for a start, we can change the way we feel and the way we behave. And we can protect ourselves as well. So whether somebody else is a narcissist or not is irrelevant, and I would suggest that you just get rid of the idea altogether and be like, it doesn't matter, we're in conflict, we both hate each other right now because we both want different things, or whatever's going on in your situation, you're unlikely to see eye to eye. So it's not really helpful to go on about what they are or not, or trying to make sense of their behavior, because you can't really. All you can do is control how you feel and how you behave and make sure you protect yourself. So this is kind of what I wanted to share from a co-parenting point of view, co-parenting point of view. For the sake of your children, it's so important to keep that line of communication going. And I know for a fact during my divorce there were times when I was doing things in a certain way to protect myself. And that's very important. Put your own oxygen mask on first and all that jazz. But it potentially wasn't the greatest move in terms of communications. So, it's a tricky time. As I say, we're all going to make mistakes. But if you can come at it from the point of view of, it's really important that your kids still have contact with their kids, and for that reason alone, you should stay in contact with your ex and try and communicate. Beyond that, I mean, the first thing I would say is, if you're in high conflict, the only thing you need to talk to your ex about is kids. So you don't need to be talking to them about anything else to do with the divorce. You can leave that to the lawyers. But you do need to communicate about who's going to have the kids when, and try and keep that open. And there's some amazing communication tools that you can use, like parenting apps, which are admissible to court. Nothing can be deleted. And you can set your boundaries there. You can be like, I will only communicate with you about the children in this app. And so while all of the other stuff is going on, at least you have this space which is protected for the sake of your kids, making sure that they can still keep seeing their other parent. But yeah, sadly, we do still need to keep communicating to them. And it's kind of our responsibility to make sure that our kids do keep that relationship alive with their parent. I talk about it in my book, actually. Just to give it a little plug here. I wrote to Cheryl Strayed about her book, Tiny Beautiful Things, because I just loved what she wrote about. It was basically a letter from a woman, because she is an agony aunt, so it's Dear Sugar letters. And a woman wrote to her and said, I got pregnant with a guy, he then disappeared off, and he's literally never been in touch regarding his child. Do I have to keep keeping in touch, basically? And she's like, he sounds like the biggest arsehole of all time. However, it is our responsibility as the parent to keep that communication alive and to keep letting the other parent know what's going on for your child, purely for the sake of the child. She said it's our responsibility not to thwart a success between your baby and their daddy. And I've really held on to that. And in all of the hardest times that I had, I kept that in mind and I kept thinking, we need to get through this purely so they can have a really healthy relationship with their dad. And yeah, there were times when it was really gross and icky and messy and angry and hurtful things were said. But I remember I was manifesting at the time, and I'd wake up every morning and I'd just try, I'm so happy and grateful that my kids are healthy and safe and they're surrounded by people that love them. And I just wrote that, I probably wrote it about 1,000,000 times. But I just wanted to keep connected to this idea, even in the middle of the fight, that everything I'm doing, I'm going to cry, that everything I'm doing is for it's for them, and to keep them safe and to make sure that they keep that connection alive, because it can do so much damage to little kids to not have that connection and to lose that, or to feel like they've been abandoned by a parent. And we just have to do our best to try and keep the connection there just for them. And I know it's not easy, and I know for some of you listening, you'll be like, yeah, great, but the parent doesn't want to know. And I send you all the love for that, because it's not ideal. It's not what you wanted when you set out on this journey, but I know that you're doing an amazing job. All we can do is our best. That's all we can do. And as long as our kids know, they probably won't appreciate it until they're older. But at least if you can say to them, I did my best. I did my best on my part to try and make it a success for you. That's all we can do. So, don't beat yourself up about that. And it comes back to that compassion time and time again. We're just doing our best with what we've got. So another one of my boundaries around communicating is making sure. So the first was only talk about the kids if you're in high conflict. The second was to communicate through the parenting apps, because it can't be deleted. The third is, make sure you keep trying to keep in contact and sending the photos, and at least, whatever is going on in the background, you still have these beautiful children in common, and they matter, and to try and keep that connection alive, at least for their sake. However, in terms of the whole putting your own oxygen mask on first, you do not need to be accessible 24/7. If you're having issues with your ex constantly messaging you, I would highly recommend that you have a window in your day when you will read these messages, and have a cut off, like caffeine. Have a cut off at, say, 1 o'clock in the afternoon, or even earlier. Say, I'm only going to look at it when there's an AM on the clock, and I'd say not 1 AM, I mean like 8 AM till 12, for example. Those are the times that you are willing to go in and deal with these messages, because if you leave it too late in the day, your subconscious, as you go to sleep, will be trying to then solve problems. It will anyway, but at least give it a head start and try and have done a lot of the processing during the day, so when you go to bed, you can actually rest and you can actually sleep. So yes, you need to be available. Yes, you need to be communicating, but you do not need to be available 24/7. And there were plenty of times when I went to bed having just received a horrible email, and then I wake up at 1, or even or not even get to sleep, and basically I can't sleep the whole night, and then I've got my kids to look after in the morning. That is not a good situation. So be sure to have epic sleep hygiene around when you are willing to look at these messages. Likewise, messages from your lawyer. Just don't look at your emails past a certain time, because it's like, I don't know, an unopened envelope. You got a message from somebody and you don't know who it's from. If you know it's there, you're going to want to go and read it. So just give yourself a break and say, I'm not going to do that from a certain time onwards, to protect myself and to protect my rest and my sleep. And the other thing I would say, and this one thing could be the one thing that could save you a lot of money in your divorce, and that is to sleep on all your responses, which can feel quite weird because we have grown up in a time where it's expected to get to inbox 0 every day, or to make sure that you respond to everybody, because otherwise you're rude. You can't leave anybody on read. You know, when you've got the 2 green ticks and somebody knows you've read their message and you haven't messaged back. We're like being brought up to be flipping cyborgs or something, where we have to respond to everything immediately. Whereas back in the day, you'd get a letter and then you wouldn't expect a response from that letter for a week. Like, you don't have to do it. We don't have to respond immediately. And frankly, because of when you're in a high conflict situation, if you do respond immediately, the chances are you're going to say something you regret. So sleep on it. Sleep on your responses. Even speaking to your lawyer, give yourself 24 hours to process what the messages said. What do you actually need to reply to? What can you ignore? Do you even need to reply to the message at all? There were times when I just didn't respond because I'm like, that email isn't actually a constructive one. It's just a one picking on me, or picking on the way that I'm doing something, and it doesn't require a response. Like, it's easy to be like, oh, bloody show him, I'm going to respond and tell him everything I want. But, you know, to quote something from my book again, they're not going to receive this email and go, oh, yes, I am a dickhead. Yes, that's right. No, you're going to get another nasty email straight back. So first of all, do you need to respond? Second of all, which bits do you need to respond to if you do? And third of all, can it be done through lawyers, but very selectively, so that you're saving yourself money and not going over and over the same things? Those would be my thoughts. And yes, definitely don't vent at your ex or your lawyer, because your ex is just going to send you a nasty email back and your lawyer is going to send you a massive bill. So be very careful about when you respond, how much you respond, and really taking your time to breathe and work out what is important and what isn't. Like, just give yourself space. The average divorce apparently it can take 6 to 10 months, right? But the chances are it's not. It's going to be slightly longer if you've got things like money to sort out and childcare arrangements. So as much as we want everything done tomorrow, it's not going to be. And I think that is okay. I think it's okay to take your time with these things, because we need a bit of space to, first of all, get over the heartbreak, and then to get over the conflict, and then to get over everything that's happened and work out what you want to do next. But the good news is regarding co-parenting. I can tell you, yeah, 4 years later, it does get easier. In fact, as soon as our final court hearing happened regarding the kids, suddenly everything transformed and everything changed, and it got so much easier to do everything. I couldn't believe it, because we literally went from only being able to speak through lawyers at one point to this last weekend we had a birthday party for our little girl, for her school friends, where they all came. Me and her dad were there, but not only that, but our partners were there with their kids. Like, dude, I feel like such a grown-up right now. But it's also a lot. It's a lot to process. You know, even 4 years on, it's like, wow, gosh, we're so mature. We're able to do these things. But it doesn't mean, you know, it's still okay for me to be a bit like, oh, God, that was a lot to do over the weekend. And still have memories of, you know, like good times. And be sad about that, that I'm no longer able to be there for both of my kids all day on their birthdays. But I am happy that they have so many people in their lives that love them and want to spoil them, and that we're all able to turn up on their birthdays. And I hope that's what they remember, and not that there was any awkwardness or anything like that. I just want them to be like, yeah, everybody was there. In fact, my daughter said to me the next day, she was like, oh, that was so nice that you and my dad could be together at the party so you could spend some time together. I was like, oh yeah, because she said we don't normally get to spend any time together because we're always just passing the kids over and then you're gone. Whereas this really gave you a chance to be together. And I was like, what a blessing. No, I tried to make it as genuinely as I could. Say, yeah, that was nice. But you know, as long as that's her memory of it, then that's good. We can all work in time on forgiveness. And when I say forgiveness, it's not forgetting what's gone on, it's not looking back with rose tinted spectacles, it's just getting to a point where it no longer hurts you. So the big thing about forgiveness is not for the other person. Like, it doesn't matter if I forgive my ex or not. From his point of view, I don't really mind, but it does matter for me, and it does matter for my kids, that when I speak about him, they're not picking up on the underlying, you know, the underlying look in your eye or tone in your voice. I want them to only hear that I care and that I care for them. And I want my body to only hear that as well, so that I'm not harboring any resentment that is going to hurt me in the future. I just want to let all that go. And also, as I go into any future scenarios, whilst I am always considering putting my own oxygen mask on first, what are my boundaries going into a situation, and but beyond that, looking at everything through the lens of my children's eyes. Like, what is it that they would want to happen in this scenario? What won't they mind? Like, will they not mind if I'm at a certain thing um, or not? But overall, I think I just genuinely think that as long as they're being looked after from both sides, they don't really mind. They want to get nice presents. They want to have their friends around. They want to see both their parents. Um, but they're kind of wrapped up in their own little worlds and their own little lives. So that's what I try and take from it. And I have the intention of always holding them in my heart and doing my best to do right by them, whilst also making sure that I'm looking after myself and protecting myself from anything that might be hurtful to me as well. So, those are my thoughts on care parenting. Those are my thoughts on co-parenting. And yeah, tell me how you've got on with it. How have you found it? Is this your first, birthday or Christmas coming up where you're going through all this? What are the big challenges that you're facing? I'd love to hear how you're getting on. And if you do want to read some more of my thoughts, because I share things like how to be a single parent and how to actually cope with the absolute craziness of having your kids full time to then not having them at all. And how to enjoy both of those things. So you can have a listen to my book, I say listen because I always listen to books. You can read it too. You can read my books. If you go to Amazon and type in How to Divorce Sober, yeah, you can find the audio, the ebook, or the, the actual physical copy as well. And I've got a whole section on single parenting, but also co-parenting, and how to survive like conflict, how to manage your emotions and your communication, and all of those boundaries are in there. And there's also a whole load of free bonuses that can support you through it. So things like guided meditations and yoga practices, all of those are a free bonus that goes with the book that you have access to as well. So it's all there, but more than anything, just get in touch. Tell me what's going on. Tell me how you're feeling. What are your co-parenting challenges of the moment? And what are your wins? Have you had any co-parenting wins which you absolutely did not think would happen? I'd love to hear about that too. All right, thank you so much. Bye. Thank you so much for spending your time with me today. All the details you need are in the show notes, so be sure to check those out. If you're enjoying the podcast, please do hit the subscribe button and leave a review. It really helps more people find the show. And if you know someone who'd love these stories, feel free to share it with them too. As you know, I love hearing from you, so please do reach out on Instagram @HannahHarveyUK or through my website hannahharvey.uk.